Call on COP is One Young World's message to the leaders meeting in Paris. It's messages from 196 young leaders from 196 countries saying that now is the time to act. We can't have another series of climate talks where no major decisions are made.
On behalf of the 196 countries here at One Young World in Bangkok, we call upon the world's leaders to take decisive action on climate.
Not one of them can understand why, as heads of government, action is not being taken to mitigate the effects of climate change right now.
The earth is not ours. It is a treasure we hold in trust for our children and grandchildren. You, world leaders, must live up to this trust in Paris.
Climate change is the biggest threat to our long-term health and security.
And yet, time and again, governments have failed to do anything about it. I remember because I was reporting on it.
You don't have to be a climate scientist to feel the days in New York City getting hotter, or to hear from friends experiencing devastating floods in South Carolina, or severe drought in California.
Climate change is no longer a problem of tomorrow.
Sea levels are rising. Longer droughts are stressing our sole water provider, and the heavy rains are taking the lives of our neighbors.
We are one of the small nations who are on the edge of losing our islands due to climate change.
In November 2012, Nigeria recorded one of its most catastrophic flood disasters. 363 lives were lost, 2.1 million others were displaced.
Climate change threatens 15% of the Mexico territory and 71% of its GDP.
In just 25 years, precipitation will further fall by 20% and temperatures will rise by 2 degrees. This threatens both the ecosystem and an already vulnerable agricultural sector.
A 1 meter rise in sea level will mean 67 million people have to be relocated.
Countries that will find it hard to exist within the next 50 to 100 years. Some of them will simply disappear, and others will have their populations denuded because they come from the poor parts of the world. And the poor will be the first affected and the worst affected.
Unless we do something, 100 million more people could be pushed into extreme poverty within the next 15 years alone.
So this problem is not about one individual, it's about a population, it's about a country, and it's about one world.
We might have always plan B, but we don't have a planet B.
The growing inequality in our world, the absolute poverty, and the increasing impacts of climate change are really becoming very serious. But if we don't change course in Paris in December, they could be infinitely more serious.
And it will not slow down. It will not stop unless you stand up right now and say no one gets out of here unless we have an agreement.
Without a legally binding treaty, arbitrary numbers will be thrown back and forth. The real emission targets are set by nature and not by global negotiators.
So more than ever, we need leaders willing to confront the biggest challenges the world is facing. Leaders prepared to drive transformational and not incremental change.
With your support, we can build a sustainable future for us and for our children.
In Paris, we expect nothing else but binding agreements.
The stakes are simply too high. The timing is urgent.
Do not fail this time. Do your job.